So you are a trader in ETH Online. I bet one thing that annoys you every day is updating prices in your sell orders. Yeah, that process of going through every order one by one is at best extremely boring and at worst a borderline torture when you have to do this for hundreds of orders per character. So how can you remove or at least minimize the pain of updating orders from your trading? Hello Spacefall! If you have watched my previous videos, you could have guessed that I have made another update to the ETH Holding Advisor tool. Among other small fixes and new style of tables, I have added a tool that will help you make the best decisions on when you should decrease the price on your sell orders and will save you the hassle of calculating new price manually. But this is something that no one has really done before. Well, there are offline tools that provide some portion of this functionality. For example, this is how my market orders look like in the marvelous ETH Assets tool. It fetched my sell orders with authorized ESI API access, and after a bit of tuning has displayed the following useful information. List of my active sell orders, my current sell price, price of the cheapest competing order, the total volume of orders that undercut my order, and some hints about my estimated profit from selling at current price versus the historical purchase price from my transactions history. Looks nice and great, but I would not use this information for two reasons. First, the information on the lowest competing order and volume is wrong. The tool assumes that I am worried by the orders that are located in other stations in the region, which I am not. For example, if I compare the sell market on Sister's Combat Scanner probes, I would see that there are few orders that are located in the middle of nowhere, and the tool considers that these orders undercut me. Nope, they are not. And this alone breaks the usefulness completely. But there are two more columns that contain albeit useful but placed out of context information. I am talking about the undercutting volume and undercutting price delta. The issue with the latter is that it should be presented in the percentage of current sell price, and the former should be divided by regional daily traded volume. Why? Well, it requires a bit of a complex explanation on how capital works, so bear with me. Let's say you want to sell 10 million ISK worth of Caldari Navy heavy missiles. They sell out fast so long as your order is the cheapest on the market, as there is great demand. Unfortunately, the moment you have placed your order at 1000 ISK per missile, your competitor placed an order at 999.9 ISK per missile, and that order contains 1000 missiles, or is worth 999,900 ISK. So what do you do now? Do you update your order to be the cheapest, or do you ignore this competitor for the time being? The first question that is important to understand is why would you want to change the price? The answer to that is simple. Because in ideal world you want to convert your non-liquid asset, your missiles, into liquid asset, ISK in your account, so that you can go to JITA, use your ISK to buy some other non-liquid asset that will bring you the opportunity to gain more ISK by hauling it to some other trade hub. And you really want that to happen as quickly as possible because usually that is the bottleneck in your trading operations. However, while your order is not lowest on the market, you make zero sales. So instinctively you want to go with the first option and undercut your competition, right? Well, this is where a lot of people make a huge mistake. The problem here is that when you discount your sell order, you lose money. First, you lose a percentage of the whole sell price in the broker fees, and on top of that you lose the discounted price margin. So assuming we have to pay 2% brokerage fee on every change, we would lose 2.1% of total sell order value or 210,000 ISK. And if you will find a stubborn competitor who will keep doing the same, both of you will undercut each other into the loss while destroying the market for a few days. Not great at all. So what is the loss with the other option? At first it sounds like if you do nothing you get no loss, right? The worst possible outcome is that in 90 days your market order will expire and you will have to release or modify it to keep it on the market. But this option is actually not free either. Remember the actual goal of us selling something in the market, turning non-liquid assets into liquid ones. So while our order sits there behind someone else's order in the queue, it does not contribute to that goal. How bad is this loss in monetary value? In modern economic theory there is a term for these types of assets. They are called the bound capital, or the capital that you cannot immediately extract from your operations. Another important term is rate of return. That is how much you gain in relation to your starting capital per fixed time term. There are several ways of defining this number, but let's use market approach. It is profitable for you to give out a loan at the rate X when your own rate of return is less than X. Conversely, it is not profitable when your rate of return is greater than X, as you can invest more capital in your own business. So if you want to define this number, imagine a scenario where you can give your ISK to someone at a fixed rate of X% a day. In this situation, where you have 100% guarantee that they will return the money back, what would be the lowest rate at which you would agree to give this money out? This number is your rate of return. Now let's talk on how they work together in our missile scenario. In our case, the bound capital is 10 million ISK, and let's say you expect a rate of return of 1% a day. In this case, this order sitting there for a day, while not being the lowest sell order, will actually cost you 1% or 100,000 ISK. If it will sit there for 2 days, it will cost you slightly more than 2% due to the rules of compound interest, and so on. And now we finally have enough numbers to answer the original question. So we need to look at the loss from discounting and keep it in mind as the cost of option A. Then we need to look at how much items there is on sale that undercut our order and divide that number by the daily regional average sales. Let's say that in our case 10,000 missiles are sold daily. So we can estimate that it will take about 2 hours and 24 minutes on average to sell these competing missiles. This gives us a solid estimate of how much time our capital will be bound in the form of missiles. Then we simply take that time in days, our rate of return also in days, and apply the equation for compound interest to get the cost of option B. And once we have both numbers, we just pick the options that cost us less. And that's it. Of course, there are always other alternatives, such as cancelling the order and moving goods somewhere else, or buying out the competitor's order and listing it at a higher price. Those might be useful in some other cases, but let's not overcomplicate things. So how would this process look like if we use JEV assets? We would look at every order that has been actually undercut. Then we would take the undercutting price delta and divide it by current sell price of the item and add brokerage margin to get the cost of our option A. Once that is done, we need to look at total undercutting volume and divide that by average daily traded volume to estimate the additional time our capital will be bound unless we change the price. Then we use our rate of return and compound rate equation to get the cost of option B. And then just pick the cheapest option. And you probably have noticed that most of the information is present in JEV assets, but in a slightly insufficient way. So I made my version better, and here's how it works. You start by exporting the latest list of market orders for your corporation or character. Import it in the tool and wait a bit while the tool queries ESI API. Once it is done, you will get the table of market orders that have been undercut by someone. The list is sorted by trader, trade hub, and item sorting order from the imported list, which corresponds to the default sorting order in game. In the last two columns you will find the cost of option A minus the brokerage fee computed directly, and the duration for the capital being bound that is needed to compute the cost of option B. And you just need to make a brief comparison in your head to decide for which orders you want to undercut. If you decide to do so, you just need to copy the new price presented in the suggested price column and update your order in game. And here is another bonus tip specifically for the people calling to Amar. The almighty Sunesis destroyer is completely broken in one more way. Because it relies on sub-2-second warp out to avoid being destroyed, there is actually no major practical difference in piloting it in high security or low security space. So when you do JITA to Amar holes, you can actually reduce your trip from 45 jumps of high sec only route to just 11. Yeah, 11 jump route that crosses one low sec system that is called Akbazon. I have personally tried this route for the last 2 weeks and cannot be happier about it. The only real risks that you will have there are lags and smart bombs. The first one is actually higher when you take the high security route because you spend 4 times more time being vulnerable to disconnects and power outages. And the second should not be a big issue so long as you keep your Sunesis properly tanked and your active tank modules are enabled while in warp in Akbazon. That being said, there are some people who manage to lose Sunesis in Akbazon despite inertial stabilizers, so put some money in your own risk aversion fund just in case. So what do you want me to talk about in the next video? Do you want to know how I would compute the rate of return for my operations? I also have a few ideas on improving the tool's current functions, like making better and different approaches to splitting your budget in buy order generation, or making this undercut checking tool even smarter and maybe even include automatic periodic checks. Or maybe you want something else? Let me know in the comments, stay tuned for more videos and fly safe.